Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's video, I'm gonna do something a little bit different, something I want to talk about because this is really pissing me off. Um, the other day was Becky Lynch's birthday. So if you guys can tell by the title, I'm gonna be debating whether if Becky Lynch is the GOAT or not. So what kind of made me like start do this video is because I was on Twitter yesterday or the day before, and it was her birthday. Uh, and I wasn't gonna tweet. I wasn't gonna respond to it. I was reading some of the comments. This one particular fellow made me comment because he kind of like I didn't comment about her. I commented about his. I responded to his tweet because he like basically says she's the GOAT, nobody's better and all this, and I was like, no, you can't do that. That was a big no for me. So at first I wasn't gonna do it, but then he kind of made me do it, so I had to go in there and give him some little lessons because growing up as a kid. So backstory with WWE, if you guys didn't watch the Kane and Abel podcast or my recent videos with WWE, you guys will know that I grew up in the Attitude Era growing up, and I stopped watching a little bit for like I was like quit watching like 2 years, most likely in the John Cena era when John Cena was constantly winning everything, and there was a lot of new wrestlers coming in, and a lot of my older guys that I was used to watching kind of retired, so I stopped watching, and then I got right back into it because of certain returns like Kane returning, or Kane never left, but like some older wrestlers coming back, and that kind of brought me back into it. So but I say like around 2010, close to no 2010 is probably when I left. Close to 2012 I started coming back into WWE, so I know my fair share around WWE. Like I said, growing up as a kid, I used to buy all the WWE wrestling figures. My brother was heavy into WWE. You guys know my brother's favorite wrestler was the Ultimate Warrior. Growing up as a kid, my favorite wrestler was Shawn Michaels. And you guys know some of my other favorite wrestlers: Edge, Kane, Triple H, but Austin, The Rock. Little people like that. I could keep going down the list. Bret Hart. But like I said, so I know my fair share around, and a lot of these kids growing up now likes to use the word "goat." They like to use that word because, like, I mean, I don't blame them. They're growing up, they didn't really watch that Attitude Era. They were missing out a lot of the great things that happened during that era and even before it. So, like I said, I'm real heavy into WWE at that time, WWF. So my uncles got me into it because my uncles was watching it, like the Von Erichs, even before those days with Bruno Sammartino. Like that type of era. So they're heavy into it. And they're the one who brought me into it, and so so I know my fair share of history with them, listening to their stories, listening to their type of wrestlers. And then the beauty about WWE is the WWE Network, where you go back and watch some of those old matches that they had and that they recorded. So, like I said, I know my fair share around. So when this newer generation is calling Becky the GOAT, and even herself, which, like I said in my previous video, you don't want to say like, okay, I'm the second best, or I think I'm great. No, you want to be considered the GOAT. You want to be considered the best. The Rock did that for so many years, calling himself the Great One, even though there was I believe wrestlers that were better than the Rock. And that's saying a lot because the Rock is one of the GOATs, but there's still like the the Nick Flairs of the world, uh, the Ricky the Dragon Steamboats, Undertakers, those type of wrestlers before I put The Rock over Bret Hart. So like I said, you could say you're the GOAT, but technically you're not really is. So I did like a little history lesson. I'm not gonna go completely into it, but like I'm not gonna name every single accomplishment the wrestler did, but I wrote down Becky's Lynch accomplishments, some of hers, and then some of the wrestlers that I feel that are better than Becky, and then some of like the, let's say, like issues on why most kids these days wouldn't consider Becky the GOAT. I mean, consider those wrestlers better than Becky because, like I said, like on paper, like I'm just gonna throw this out here for once, like China's accomplishments aren't on paper aren't like when first glance you're looking at it, you're like, how is she one of the goats? You know, she only won the Divas Championship or the Women's Championship, like, let's just say, for instance, one time, you know. But I'm gonna get to the reason why, you know, when I get up to that. So, but if we're gonna start off with Becky. So with Becky, she signed a contract in WWE in 2013. She got called up in 2015. No, she started. I'm gonna just go like this. She signed a contract in WWE in 2013. She was in NXT for a while. Even when she was in NXT, she never won the belt when she was in NXT. She lost almost all her title attempts in NXT. And then eventually she got called up and then she got her shot. And they gave her a pretty big push. So in 2015, she got her big push. Um, that's when around the time in Backlash, she won the SmackDown Women's belt in 2016. So it took her about a year to finally win the big championship, and she was getting a huge push. I still remember that. WWE was pushing her real hard. She had the fans going around. Like I said, when she was growing up, I never really resonated with her. You know, I kind of didn't like her style. She was like, when she wrestled, was always making weird noises that I used to make fun of or whatever. So I wasn't the hugest Becky Lynch fans, but I still give her props about what she did. Especially when there was around the time when she was coming up, you know, Paige was she was got into she started the women's revolution, but you know she was coming off injuries, and so Becky Lynch took that shot and she just ran with it. Um, and then that brings her to now, to where I'm just gonna read down some of her accolades. To where she's a four-time world champion, the longest reigning women's champion. She won the Wrestler of the Year in 2018, Woman of the Year in 2018, and Most Popular in 2019. So like I said, she's a four-time world champion, won Raw's women's belt, and three SmackDown World Champions for women. So she's won her belts. She is a four-time world champion. Now, is that enough to be considered the GOAT? Um, I'd say no, and this is why. Because then we're gonna go down to China. So with China, it was kind of controversy for her. You guys know, I'm not talking about the porn or whatever. When she first growing up and going into not WWE at that time, WWF, but she was wrestling in other promotions, and you know, and with Becky, I didn't name them other her unknown, most of the unknown other professions she's won belts in. So I'm not gonna name all of them. Like I said, I'm not gonna name every single accomplishment these wrestlers have done. Um, but with going up, you know, China was wrestling, and you would say underground wrestling or whatever. Sorry about that. Sorry for the quick edit, but so um, yeah, so like I said, she wrestled in other promotions or whatever. What made her famous was some of her promoting what she did. So she was wrestling like males, and so she had one of her biggest famous thing was wrestling a male dressed up as a woman. So Vince technically didn't want to sign her because he felt that woman wrestling men wasn't a draw to audiences. So it was kind of like a little backstory with that, and then eventually she ended up getting signed with WWF when Triple H and Shawn Michaels saw what she's capable of, and they're like, we need her or whatever. So Vince kind of gave the okay to signing her. So that's kind of like how that started. So women's were always like looked at differently from back in the days compared to now, where that's what I'm talking about with Paige with the women's revolution or whatever. And so that's why like these big pushes, and I'm gonna get on to another story with her and Triple H to why she wasn't getting these huge pushes because, as you guys should know, Triple H and Stephanie. So, like I said, I'm gonna get to that in a few. But so she came into WWE. She was or WWF at the time. I'm just gonna call it just WWE. So she came into WWE. She was a bodyguard for the greatest faction of all time, DX, the Generation X. Um, she was one of the first women to ever enter the Royal Rumble at number 13. So just a big accomplishment of that. It's just never a woman never ever ever had a chance to enter the Royal Rumble, and she was the first one to do it. And not only that, she held her own in the Royal Rumble. Like I said, China was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. I love China. She was big, strong, built, beautiful. Uh, so then, like I said, eventually on, she had like some of like one of the greatest storylines in my opinion, with Eddie Guerrero. I gotta mention that. And then, like some of her accomplishments, she was a WWF Intercontinental Champion, not once but twice. She ended up being and she was a WWF Women's Champion just once, WWE Hall of Famer in 2019, which I'm still to this day don't understand why it took so long for her to get into WWF. There is a video back in the days of Triple H saying that when he didn't want his kids to, China, uh, when they Google her name, porn will pop up or whatever. So that's the reason why she was kept from being in the Hall of Fame. And such a sad story because, like I said, she was always judged her whole life, and then eventually led into porn. And then, like I said, with the whole thing with Triple H hooking up with Stephanie McMahon, and then kind of like pushed um, China to the curve, and then China just she went from being pushed to just like nothing. Um, she wasn't even like getting put on TV anymore. She had she got put together. Like I said, she had some of the greatest things with Eddie. She had some big storylines or whatever, but they weren't as huge as to where like Triple H and Stephanie had the whole wedding thing and all that. So, like I said, just a sad story. And then eventually, she got into porn. Before that, she got, yeah, I think before or after, I don't remember. She went into like reality TV. I think got and then eventually led into porn and all that, depression and all that. So, such a sad story, and I'm still shocked to this day why WWE took so long to put her into the Hall of Fame. And like I said earlier, this is one of those things where her accomplishments kind of don't mean anything um, compared to like Becky and then Trish Stratus and Lita, because like I said, that was one of the big reasons. Because remember, Triple H just married the boss's daughter. So come on, put two and two together. It's not too hard. So so basically, and then like I said, but she was basically revolutionized because she was ninth woman, what they call her, the ninth Wonder Woman of the world. I don't know, something like that. But she was like, come on, she was built, like I said, she was strong, beautiful, talented. She was a hell of a good wrestler. She was so good. She was wrestling with men. She had some good feuds with Jeff Jarrett. I still remember Jeff Jarrett hitting her with the guitar. Like I said, some of the greatest moments in WWE history, man. But like I said, to me, I think personally, China's a better wrestler than Becky Lynch. For what she has accomplished in WWE. Um, even now, there's still wrestlers who, like Nia Jax, when she entered the men's Royal Rumble. I never seen Becky, nah, but I'm not gonna get into all that. But anyway, speaking of Trish, and I am gonna talk about, is Trish better than Becky Lynch? And I say yes, because Trish is one of the great, and to a lot of people out there, Trish is the GOAT. To a lot of people, you ask who's the greatest woman wrestler of all time, a lot of people would definitely say Trish Stratus. So Trish Stratus made. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna go down a little bit info about her. So Trish Stratus made her debut in March 2000. Um, she had one of the greatest rivalries in WWE history with Lita and Mickey James. You can't really forget about that. Um, so then I marked down some of her accolades, and to me, it's one of the best. She had one of the best careers of all time. She was a woman of the year, not only once, not only twice, not three times, but four times. She was a women's champion. She was a hardcore champion. Not too many women could say that. And you guys know hardcore with Mick Foley, so she was a hardcore champion. She was a 7-time women's champion, 7 times. Of course, the Hall of Famer. She was the Diva of the Decade. So if you guys don't know Diva, so with Divas, so before women were actually called women in WWE, they were called Divas, and then she was a diva. So there was divas, like they had the divas belt or whatever. So women were always respected until more recently in WWE. They had stupid brawls and panty matches, which is good for us. Like us heterosexual mans, we love the brawl and panty matches or those type of matches like that. But that's what the type of wrestling they were doing. They weren't considered wrestlers, that was considered entertainment more. If you following me there. So um she was one of the first to win the George Stragos, and I kind of said that like Spanish, I really don't know. And Luthez, pro wrestling um Hall of Fame. She won the Luthez award. I don't know why that was so hard to say. But if you guys don't know the Lou Press is one of the moves that Stone Cold Steve Austin does when he would run, jump up on you, he fall and just hit you a couple times. That was called the Lou Press um, press or whatever. So um, so uh, that was Trish Stratus. So like I said, one of my favorites. I think one of the goats. Just 7-time world champion. All those accolades are way better than Becky Lynch, in my opinion. Um, and then we're gonna get down to Lita. So then, Lita to me is one or the real wrestlers to make people realize, like, yo, women's are way more capable than just wearing, you know, sexy outfits, and just, and don't get me wrong, Lita wear the thong or whatever, showing up, but just more capable than that. And Lita proved it. She was high. She was a high flyer, one of the biggest high flyers in WWE history. We're definitely seeing more today, but she was, at that time, she was like one of the best, and nobody could do it like Lita. I mean, if you guys know, she has some crazy moments too with her, um, her Karana people or whatever, jumping off the ladder. So she was one of the first to do it. But she made her WWE career and her first debut in February 13, 2000. She was involved in one of the greatest tag teams of all time, which is the Hardy Boys. So you got to give her credit for that. To me, she had this is a funny moment, but she had the sexiest segment in WWE history with Edge. I mean, how can you forget that? That's one that's one of the greatest segments of all time. Um, like I said, she had her big segments with Trish, Kane, some of her bigger moments. Some of her accolades, she was a Hall of Famer in 2014. She won Woman of the Year in 2001. Um, she was a WWE Women's Champion not once, not twice, not three times, but four times. And then she won the WWE Women's Championship tournament. So you got to give her props for that. So does she? I mean, if you put her up to Becky Lynch, does she um, wins the argument? I mean, it could be up in the air for that one, but I still say Lita's still had a way better career just because, like I said, she was with one of the greatest high flying tag teams of all time, which is the Hardy Boys. And when you talk about tag teams, the Hardy Boys has to be at least top five, close to top 10 tag teams of all time. So you definitely have to put her up there because she was part of that. Because with the Hardy Boys, they had managers, but they weren't as close to Trish Stratus. I mean, Lita. They had Terry Reynolds with them, but you see what Terry Reynolds would come out with the Hardy Boys, they would leave her in the dust. But Lita felt like she was part of that tag team, so I give her props for that. And she was an ECW, so a lot of people don't remember that. Um, and here is the most controversial one of all time. And to me, she was the one that revolutionized women wrestling, of anything, and that is the Fabulous Moolah. Um, listen to this fact. She was a champion, a women's champion for 10,170 days, something that will never be accomplished again. She set the stones for every woman to come after her. Um, she began her career in 1949, the first ever WWF champion when Vince bought the company over. She was the champion of NWA, and eventually brung over. She was the first ever WWF champion. Uh, like I said, she was an NWA tag team champion. She was not once but twice. NWA, if you guys don't know, the National Wrestling Alliance. She was a five-time NWA World Wrestling Champion, five times. She was an NWA Hall of Famer, WWF Hall of Famer. Um, and I'm not even gonna mention all the other organizations she won belts in, and she a Hall of Fame. She's in the Hall of Fame in the other organization. Now, her biggest thing why a lot of people put her down is from the financial exploits and sex exploits that she getting. So I'm not gonna dive highly deeply into that. But if you guys don't know, there were a lot of people accusing her of she taking money from them, and then pimping other wrestlers off. So that's why she probably doesn't get talked about. But rest in peace, the Fabulous Moolah. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna dive completely into that. But and then she had she was with the one of the greatest performers of all time. I'm forgetting her name, but she had her things with Mark Henry or whatever. I'm just gonna put up a image of that. So like I said, she had all those accomplishments too. She set the bar for women's wrestling. And then I don't know, for men, it's just gonna be Alundra Blaze, but Alundra Blaze didn't when you talk about Alundra Blaze, she didn't have the women to compete with, so if you put Alundra Blaze in this era or Attitude Era, in WWE, this is before she threw the belt in the trash or whatever. If she would have stood in WWE, she probably could have been on this list, because who knows what type of accomplishment she could have had, and then what type of matches she could have had with China, or Trish or Lita. So who knows what type of career she would have had if she would have stood. So, a lot of ifs or whatever. So, but anyways, so with all those going down, I'm not gonna decide. I already said all the wrestlers that I put above Becky. I'm gonna let you guys decide who you guys think is the best, just with some of those names that I put up there. To me, if I were to say who's better than Becky, I'm definitely putting Trish or China number one before over Becky. So, but Becky, to me, I think before we start calling her the GOAT, I think she still has a lot to prove in WWE. And if she plans to stick with WWE, because who knows, maybe she leaves, if she goes into AEW or TNA or New Japan Wrestling. She hits the indie circuit. Who knows? Nobody knows. So let's see what as far as she accomplishes. She's still young. Let's wait for her to get a little bit older before before we start calling people the GOAT. She has some great accomplishments herself. As far as I know, if you really want to start talking about calling someone the GOAT, I think Charlotte Flair has a huge shot before Becky, because Charlotte Flair has accomplished way more. And you guys know how I feel about both of them. But if I were to pick one over the other, I would definitely pick Charlotte Flair as being the GOAT before I would pick Becky. Because Charlotte Flair is she's a 10-time world champion. Let's just put that into it. So, she's 5 away from her father. So, before, and John Cena, then Triple H. I don't even know. I think Triple H is I don't even know how many times Triple H is. I think Triple H is out there. I don't remember, but anyways, but like I said, there's an argument for her, and she's won the Royal Rumble. What other things has Charlotte accomplished with? I don't really know. I'll probably put her like a details of her accomplishment in the video, but you can make an argument for her. So, and then kind of remember, these females are still young, so they're not there. It's not like they're at the end of their career, man. They're still in the prime of their career, so there's still a lot to be accomplished. So, and they have more of the opportunity to do something, because like I said, the women's growing up, or the women's back in the days, and actually didn't have the type of accomplishments, or didn't have the time, the air time to go in there or main event, like Becky Lynch main eventing WrestleMania. They didn't have that. I mean, they'll be lucky enough to even get 5 minutes of air time. So let's just put that out there. So if 100% China was to, if Vince or anybody or whoever was running it at the time was to, if they had the type of things they had now, China would probably be one of the first people to main event WrestleMania. So that's one of the arguments I was trying to make was, there's just more you're able to get away with, not get away with, but more to do now than you were during the Attitude Era or before that, so, but like I said, I'm gonna let you guys decide who's the GOAT. So hope you guys like this video. Like I said, there's something, a little something different I decided to do. So you guys have a wonderful day, and see you guys later. If you 100% disagree with me on any of this, that's fine. You know, you could come at me in the comment section. Just be respectful. You know, I'm not going out there completely disrespecting anybody. You know, be respectful. But you guys have a wonderful day. See you guys.